So, welcome to another episode of East Meets West on leadership. Today, I have a special guest from Nigeria. He is one of my professor that challenged me to think and go deeper in spiritual aspect and leadership aspect of my life. And I love listening to him because I think he's filled with so much wisdom. And Dr. Oladotun Reju. Yes, I may not pronounce his name correctly, but for short, Dr. Dot. So Dr. Dot is the founder and the chief resource person of the Center from Transformational Leadership, Jos City, Nigeria. He's trained as a banker and practiced for over a decade. He's currently engaged in pastoral and teaching vocation and has been in it for 24 years. Dr. Dutt, as he is fondly and loved to be called, is the founding pastor of the Kingdom Citizens Pavilion Ministry, a multifaceted local congregation based in Jos. The church community serves the city in areas of education through the Kingdom Citizens International School and Kingdom Citizens College, in socio-political activism and economic empowerment through the Patrice Empowerment Initiative, a social political action group for the promotion of responsible governance and citizenship in Nigeria. So welcome Dr. Dot from Nigeria as we talk today about the church mandate where leadership is concerned. And we're taking a little twist on the leadership concept. So, Dr. Dot, welcome to this program, and we look forward to hearing all the knowledge that you're going to impart on all of us that are listening, and as we grow together in leadership from a different perspective. So, Dr. Dot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shanti. I'm so delighted and honored to be here to join you. I've been following this broadcast, on the social media for a while, and I thoroughly enjoyed the session you had with, I've forgotten his name now. And I'm so delighted to be here to share this platform with you and also to learn together and to be able to offer some sort of counsel, some sort of insight into what is happening, globally, maybe in Guyana particularly, and with reference to, my country, Nigeria. So I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Dot. So, as we talk about what is the role, what is the mandate of the church in leadership today, and we're talking lots about business and organization and how the leaders show up. What is the role the leaders play in these different spheres of life? But today we're taking a little twist as you share from your perspective of what is the mandate of the churches in our world today, whether it's from the East or from the West. We would like to hear your thoughts.
Thank you very much. That is a very, very good, relevant, and necessary question that we need to seek answers to, especially at this time. Now, when we say church, I think where we need to start from is to do a lot of redefinition of, a redefinition of a lot of terms that we have used: church, leadership, business, and all this sort of thing. So now, when we talk about church particularly, we're talking about a concept, right, that was initiated by Jesus Christ, and that is captured in what we know within church circle as the Great Commission. That's the mandate that he gave. Now, when you look at the Great Commission, for those who are not very, familiar with that, that is the popular, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations. Everyone in church, every Christian follower of Christ or whatever, even non-Christians are familiar with that phrase. Now, that's the Great Commission. Now, that commission, when you look at it, it's a leadership commission. It's a leadership commission. To be asked, to be mandated, to be assigned to make disciples is to inform you, is to challenge you to go and model something. A disciple maker is a teacher. A disciple is a learner. So if Jesus is asking his followers to go and make disciples of all nations, he's asking them, he's giving them a twofold assignment: to provide leadership for societies by producing leaders. To provide leadership for societies, and the strategy for providing leadership for societies is to produce leaders. And this producing leaders is also holistic, is the spectrum is wide. Because that's why it said, go into all the world. So what you see there is that it's not just one world. There are many worlds on earth. There is a world of science, there's a world of health, there's a world of sports, there's a world of politics, there's a world of business. So what Jesus said to his followers is that we need to provide leadership for all these worlds. And the way we do that is to get, roll up our sleeves and develop people who can go into these different spheres to go and model something, to go and provide leadership, to go and give direction. Over the years, we have limited this Great Commission to just getting people saved, getting them to come to church on a Sunday. That is important, but that's just a little piece in the puzzle. That is just a means to the bigger end. So what we need right now is to go back and, go back to the original mandate and dissect it, get the whole picture. So, what we have not done is, for instance, we said, don't go into business. Business is sinful. Don't go into politics. Politics is sinful. It is because we have not had a very wide definition of business. And let me make it very simple. Business is anything that any human being is busy doing. What consumes your time? That's where we get the word business from. Busyness. What you are busy doing, what consumes your time. Yep. Politics, the word politics is from the word polit, which means people. So politics, we have limited it to elections and seeking office, right? But politics, the definition is the arrangement of human life for human flourishing. There's a way humanity needs to be arranged that will promote human flourishing, that will promote commonwealth, that will promote health, that will promote education. So that's politics, but we have limited it to just elections, to campaigns. So the church needs to come and give a wider, holistic, complete definition of all this. For example, if you go to education, we have limited it to someone going to school. So someone learning a trade, we don't see the person as being educated because it's not in a formal school. It is because the voice of the Great Commission has been muted. It is the responsibility of the church to be able to provide that kind of leadership that illuminates. Now, when you look at it, the church is the only organization in the world that does not exist for itself. That's why when you were reading my bio and you read the line about my church, I said, our church serves our city. The church exists to serve humanity. For God so loved not the church, the world. The church should love the world enough to serve it. So if the church exists to serve society, every believer also should see himself, should see herself, as someone that exists to serve society, to serve his community, to serve his neighborhood. whatever we do must be done from the perspective of serving people. Jesus came, he said, the Son of Man, describing himself, has not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. So this is what we really need to go back to. We have been very self-serving. We have withdrawn, from a lot of areas in life. And the two substances used to describe the church in the Bible is salt and light. These are substances of influence. And how do you define leadership? We know this from the John Maxwell, kind of community. Leadership is simply defined as what? As influence. Light is a substance of influence. Light is not needed if there is no darkness. Salt is a substance of influence. Where there's impurity, where there's a potential for rottenness, things can go, you can decay. That's where you need salt. So salt is not consumed in itself. Salt is only useful when it's applied. Light is not useful in itself. Light is only useful when there's darkness. So these are substances, elements of influence. So when you say church, again, let's go back to definition. Church is not a building. We've said that for ages, but we've not applied it. So these are the things, that is why every follower of Christ has a mandate, has a call. There is no uncalled Christian. Every Christian is called, some to be mothers, some to be fathers, some to be businessmen, some to be... So whatever we do, should be seen from the perspective of call. The reason the world is spinning out of control is because we have marginalized the body of Scripture. We have not been able to, get an understanding of that Scripture in such a way that we can communicate it to the world in the way that they will understand. Let me give you an instance. There are a lot of debates going on in the world. Gender, for instance. The reason we have gender debates, the reason we have gender violence, the reason is because the church have not been able to come and explain that gender is not primary. Gender is secondary. We are not male or female first. We are humans first. Only the Bible can give us that definition. We always start the story from the middle. Man, head of the woman. A woman can do this, only a man can do this. Both man, woman, we are humans first. It takes a particular kind of leadership to be able to give that kind of perspective. It must be woven into school curriculum in a very, very innovative way. It must be woven into staff policy in an organization but it takes a servant heart. And only the Great Commission, like I just said, can give that kind of perspective. The moment we marginalize that Great Commission, which is a leadership commission, the world will spin out of control. It's like switching off the light. It's like cooking a good meal without the spice or salt. So these are the challenges that we have. The church is failing. In my own context, until recently in Nigeria, they will tell you if you're a Christian, if you go to politics, you will lose your faith. If you say you are a businessman, you say you are in it for the money. We don't even know the definition of money. So it's a world that, because the church, we have not provided leadership. We have not given the right definition of perspectives, of concepts to the world. The world is speaking a language that will hurt them. The solution to the problems of the world is simple. It's Christ. The life that Jesus modeled as inspired by Christ. So you see, the Great Commission is not a church commission. It's a human commission. Now, church, as we know, are just honored, called to steward the Bible. It's a privilege. The Bible is not a church book. It's a life book. The moment we see it as a church book, we see it as a place where we go to get a prayer point, as a place where we go to get a promise to claim, as a book we read on Sunday. This is the problem. And let me say this before I pause. It is more pronounced in a place like Africa, maybe in the Caribbean, maybe in your own kind of context, because the faith was imported to us. So we look at it in a way that is not contextual. If you look at the West, you realize that the Christian faith at the beginning, it has actually benefited them. They've benefited from it. They've been able to build strong nations because they had, the head start. But for us in Africa, in the global South, because this was brought to us maybe under the cloak of colonialism and all those kind of things, we've not reaped the full benefit. It's still a means of getting power. It's still a means of getting money. We have not seen it from that perspective of providing leadership for societies by producing leaders. The church should be churning out leaders in business, churning out leaders in education, churning out leaders in politics, churning out leaders as good mothers, good fathers, good children, good teachers in every profession. So we need to really go back there before we can begin to reap the full benefit of this concept. I think it's a man from your region, late Miles Monroe, who said that the most powerful thing in the world is a concept. And the most destructive thing in the world is a misconception. So right now, Christianity seems to be hurting, because we are misconceiving it. So I don't know if I've set the stage properly for what we want to discuss, Shanti. So
Yes.
These are my thoughts. Yeah, these are my thoughts.
Dr. Dot, indeed, I think that what you're saying is what all of us need to hear. We need to see things from a different perspective, and I do appreciate you sharing your thoughts. And there's so many things also I've noted here of as you speak, and what I'm learning too, and what stood out for me. But as you talk about, this is what the mandate of the church is. So this is what they're commissioned to do, and a thought came, and maybe more of a question. I wonder why. What went wrong? What went wrong? Is it that have the churches swayed or strayed from their mandate? What would have caused them, in your opinion, what would have caused them to come this direction now from what they were really supposed to be doing?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. We can't narrow it down to just one thing that went wrong. What went wrong was gradual. It's like a strain away from, it is like an organization that starts with founding ethos, with a particular idea. This is what we want to do. Sometimes the difficulty in doing it can make them just sway, and then they begin to do that which is convenient, right? Maybe the lateness in them realizing, or sometimes the benefit of what they are doing, maybe the way, the blessing, the prosperity, the fame that comes, on the wings of their obedience distracts. So it's a distraction. So sometimes it's the difficulty, sometimes it's the blessing that comes with it. Sometimes, greed sets in. I've seen a lot of pastors in my context that started so well. But when you listen to them now, all they talk about has no bearing on this thing I call the Great Commission. It's just, they talk about empowerment, they talk about how, successful tips. Success tips. They talk about how to be great. They talk about all those kind of things. These are just snippets. These are just, little bits and pieces of the gospel. They've left the main thing. There's nothing wrong in being famous, but you use the fame to serve. There is nothing wrong in having money, but you use the money to serve. There's nothing wrong in having stuff. The stuff is supposed to be used to serve. So these are the kind of, issues. So people get distracted either because of the lack the sacrifice that comes, the delay, or because the blessing came and then they begin to focus, they switch to maintenance mode. Some, I mean, for us in Africa, especially, it's the main challenge has been that over the years, we've seen the Christian faith as a white man's religion. And most of the time we react to that. We react to that, or we just want to be like the white man. So there are a lot of reasons. So every context needs to look at what is it that resulted in the ineffectiveness of this salt. What is it that resulted in this light not illuminating in my own context? So the reasons are contextual. For us in Africa, the years of lack, the years of subjugation, the years of being dispossessed, the years of powerlessness has led us to now use the faith to seek power, use the faith to, to get possessions, use the faith rather than allowing, the faith use us to be of benefit to humanity. So we can't put one reason to the reason why we, like maybe I don't always like to throw in scriptures here. I want to speak a language that's common. It said, we all have gone astray, and when we go astray, when the church go astray, the whole society goes astray. Societies can only become what the church has earlier become. The blame in whatever goes wrong in society lies on the church. Let me give you an example of what happened during COVID in the US. I mean, it was in Houston, and the church pastored by Joel Osteen was called out particularly for not opening their, I think it was during the flood that happened. The church was called out particularly for not opening their doors, as like maybe it was even during COVID. I can't remember now. But the point I want to make is that no other organization was called out to say that they didn't open the doors of their building for people to either be like a rehabilitation center or to be able to house people and all those kind of things. It's because written in the consciousness of every human being, known or unknown to them, there is an expectation of the church to serve community. To serve, it's a responsibility, it's a mandate, but we have forgotten, either because of flags from society, because of the blessing that we have received. Those things have actually distracted us. We need to know that the easiest thing for God to do for any one of us is to bless us. But what he said is that I want to bless you. It doesn't stop there. So that you can be a blessing. I want to bless you, Abraham. The purpose of the blessing is that you might be a blessing. It doesn't stop with us. We are channels and not reservoirs. The moment we see ourselves as the end, we get distracted. So the whole faith that we hear, the gospel that we hear preached across the world today is how God wants to bless us. So we put a full stop where God put a comma. We want to be blessed. We forget the fact that the purpose, the ultimate purpose of the blessing is that we be a blessing. For God still so loved the world and is looking for people like Shanti Persaud to give so that the world will not perish, so that it will have life in its fullness. The moment Shanti sees this platform as a means of just having her face on social media, then the whole purpose is defeated. Yeah. We need to have your face on social media so that you can be a blessing. Once that is kept in perspective, as in focus, there is sustainability. The success of your platform is not how many likes that you get. The success of it is how many lives get transformed. Yeah. How does that translate to good governance in Guyana? How does that translate to good businesses? How does that reorientate businessmen, businesswomen to know that the purpose of business is not to make profit, it's to add value to lives. The purpose of church is not just to gather on Sunday. but to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday to go and be a blessing. So the distraction is when we put a comma, when we put a full stop, where God put a comma.
Yes. In a few maybe seconds, we lost you just now.
Yeah. Oh, you lost me somewhere. I don't know what I said last so that I can repeat that. Yeah.
But indeed, some of the things that you said there, it really resonates, and it's joining the Baki Graduate University where I did meet you. But I think there where I learned about servant leadership and what servant means. And yes, joining the John Maxwell, we talk about value-based leadership who add values to others. And so we're hearing, as leaders, how do you serve? How do you give back? And, part of when you were sharing, I thought of myself. I usually tell everyone, my house is not mine. My vehicle is not mine. My children are not mine. There's nothing that I have in this world that is mine. It all belongs to God. And I believe he gave them to me so that I can store it for Him, because I am going to one day leave this earth and I'm not taking any of these things with me. And so, indeed, it's as leaders, and yes, especially as we talk about church leaders per se, that, what are their perspective as they see themselves, and is it in line with all those things that you share there, and or is it really about the lives that they're there to serve? And for me, this was a really strong point that you shared, that when the church go astray, how the communities go astray. And it's something that I think all the churches, and we have so many churches, in the countries and around the world. And, when we look at our societies and we look at our country, and we see so many things that are happening, do our leaders in the church look into their heart and ask, where have we gone astray?
Yeah.
And that sort of self-examination to see where have we gone astray, because our society, our country has gone astray. So where did we maybe fail, in what area here, and how do we correct this? And I think that is something really important, that our leaders, and from the church, from the leaders who, as you said, have this mandate to produce other leaders. Where have we gone astray? And, where, how can we come back? And that I think those are some really great points that you shared, how to, the church mandate to promote human flourishing, and to, serve the people, to, use a, and I've never heard anyone said it this way, like what you put it, that the church is to steward the Bible.
Yeah.
That is something I'm hearing for the first time. And but as I said in the beginning, I really appreciate your wisdom, and I have learned so much from, being my professor in few of my courses that I was taking, and I have learned so much from you. And I do appreciate you taking your time out, and so that we can connect and share and learn from each other. And I am sure many people gonna learn, different perspective of how they view the church, how they view leadership from this side of, and they're gonna learn. But before we close the program, I want to ask you one last question, in that, what would you charge the churches or the leaders right now from the church? What charge would you leave them right now before we close this program, or give them?
Yeah, I think I'm going to take. Yeah, I'm going to take it from the last thing you said about, about service, and you spoke about serving God, and sometimes we hide that we are serving God. You see, we don't know where God lives. God, I don't know the GPS coordinate of where God lives. The way we serve God is to serve people.
Yeah.
Right? For example, it said that if you give to the poor, you lend to God.
Mm-hmm.
So the way is, so is it said that if you have not, don't tell me you love God that you have not seen, if you have not loved the human being that that you can see. So the way we really serve God is by serving people. When you say you give to God, is because you just give to a human being. You just added value to a human being because God lives in people. God lives in people. So the challenge I want to give to leaders out there is to become people oriented. How can I be God in the life of this person? How will God want to affect this life? The way God relates with us, the character of God is to reproduce himself. What God basically did with Jesus is to make Jesus the model human being. The whole purpose of God in Adam is the same purpose of God in Jesus. When he created Adam, the challenge to Adam was to reproduce himself. The challenge also that Jesus gave to his disciples in the Great Commission, where I started from, is to reproduce themselves. So that we don't live in a leadership dependent society. We say that everything rise and fall on leadership. It's leadership. Is leaders on a ship.
Leadership.
Everyone must, is leaders on a ship. And the ship has only one direction. But in that ship, there is a captain. But everyone on this leadership, they are members of a crew. So everyone has a responsibility. It is now the duty of that particular captain to alert everyone on that ship to their own unique responsibilities. So leadership is not top down, it's not bottoms up, it's holistic.
Yep.
Is holistic. A true leader calls out the leader in the other person. So that at the end of the day, we are not having a leader-follower kind of relationship. Is leaders on a ship. So you church leader, how are you reproducing yourself? You business leader, how are you reproducing yourself? How are you promoting a culture, a value of personal responsibility? You parents, how are you reproducing yourself in your children? How will your children grow up to want to be a dad like you? I always tell couples, your children should be able to say, your boy, your son should be able to say, I want to marry a girl like my mom. The girl should be able to say, I want to marry a husband like my dad. That's how leadership operates. We reproduce ourselves. And it's not cloning, it's uniqueness, so that everybody is a piece in a large, in a large pizza. So that's the way the church should operate. So that everywhere believers are, they actually provide leadership there. They dictate the values, they define concepts. And the way we define those concepts is not just by words, it's by modeling. So church leaders that are listening to this broadcast, what is your church modeling to society? Let me end with this. Imagine a situation. If you have a local church in Guyana, imagine a situation where God hand over Guyana to your church to manage. What will change? That's a food for thought.
Very interesting food. Dr. Dot, as I said, I really appreciate you taking this time out to share with us. And we had lots of nuggets and lots of things to, ponder on. And I do believe faith without works is dead. And
Yeah.
indeed, we can have a lot of faith and we don't do our part. And you have challenged us to start thinking of what are we doing also on our side to produce ourselves as leaders.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. That's something that indeed in our reflective time to sit and look at deep within, how are we reproducing. And so I do appreciate you. I am looking forward to have you more, sharing more with us on this program. And I will invite you back at the next time when you're free and it's convenient for you to give us some of your time to share your thoughts, and maybe
I'll
even
be
come
glad
and
to.
join us in Guyana sometime and visit us, and that we can, have a more
I'm
interactive time with
I'm
you.
really looking forward to that, Shanti. Really looking forward to that, to coming to Guyana. Yes,
Yep,
really
and
looking
we
forward
would
to that.
love
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
thank you again, Dr. Dot. And this
Thank you
was
very
East
much.
Meets West. Yes.
Yeah.
You enjoy your day, and we'll see you in the next program. And as we continue to learn on leadership and from all different spheres of life, from different contexts. So take care.
Bye, Shanti.